From the PSIA-AASI satellite studios in Hood River, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. We have a very special guest today, Nicole LaVoi. Dr. Nicole LaVoi from CoachingHER is joining us. And Nicole, I've been on your website a lot. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for making the time to chat with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me as a guest, George.
Can you tell us a little bit about what CoachingHER is? What does that involve?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about CoachingHER. So I'll take a big step out first and say that CoachingHER is a program of the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport at the University of Minnesota. And we're situated within the School of Kinesiology. So it is a educational platform, tool, digital resource for coaches who coach girls that helps upskill coaches with evidence-based information to help them more effectively coach girls so we can keep girls in sport and have them have a positive experience, because we know that the coach is a very important factor in a girl's experience and whether she stays or quits sport.
So, as instructors, what are some things that our membership can learn to really engage with the girls and women that are in their class? And I think of this because so many, yes, we have women's programs, but so many of our lessons are mixed.
Yes. So CoachingHER, we have 6 foundational modules, which is all about how do you coach from a gender responsive perspective? How do we interrogate our gender bias and our gender stereotypes around coaching girls and women? And that could be, and I'm thinking about, I used to be a snowboarder, so I'll put this in a snowboarding context. So if I'm an older woman and I'm snowboarding and I'm being taught, I'm taking a class and it's maybe being taught by a young man, if he makes me feel welcomed, he's not going to mention my age, right? So it would be, because I had this happen. Oh, how old are you? And I think at the time I was in my mid 40s. He goes, we don't usually get a lot of old women snowboarding out here. And I thought, well, that doesn't make me feel very good. So that's a gender bias, is that as women get older, they're not competent. They don't want to snowboard. Maybe they should go to skiing. Snowboarding is a young person's sport. So that's just one example of where ageism and gender bias come in. And there's so many more examples that I could come up with to say, like, oh, maybe instructors think that boys just want to go super fast and don't want to be technical, whereas girls are more reserved and have a different style. And then maybe we teach that style and it reinforces the idea of that boys and girls are inherently different. I think all boys and girls want to be taught well, they want to feel cared about, and they want to learn and grow. But when gender bias gets layered in there, and nobody is purposely being gender biased, but it's how we think about coaching girls, how we evaluate girls' skills and progress, how we interpret their behaviors, and what we think girls want sometimes reinforces the very reasons why girls drop out of sport, because they don't feel like they belong, they feel they're less than the boys, they don't feel welcomed, and then they quit. So that's just a nutshell of what CoachingHER covers, in addition to helping coaches have gender responsive language, interrogate their own bias. We have new content coming out around destigmatizing menstruation. So there's a lot of really good content in there that you don't usually find in coaching education platforms.
Well, before I ask my next question, I really want to truly and honestly apologize to you for having that experience. That would be really, you said you were used to snowboard. Did that have any reason to do with used to?
No. It's
Okay.
only used to because I'm a Minnesotan and I don't like winter. And so the older I get, I really like winter less and less, and snowboarding just like I also used to play ice hockey. I don't do that anymore. I don't want to be in cold weather anymore or cold things. So I'm leaning the other way now. Mountain biking, hiking, doing things in warm climates.
Well, I would like to ask you a question, and I don't want to get too specific and into the weeds here, but uh, first with kids, and then I'd like to explore this with adults,
Okay.
because these are two situations that I see a lot. And let's say you're an instructor and you have a class of 8 kids,
Mm-hmm.
5 of them are boys, 3 of them are girls. How do we make those connections and communications that you were just talking of? Because I'm thinking of the boys often feeling kind of competitive and, oh my gosh, I don't want to be beaten by a girl. Like, she can't be better than me. And often they are.
Mm-hmm.
um, but then you've got 5 boys that could be rather boisterous and intimidating. And how can you start to break that ice and get through those gender biases
Mm-hmm.
to teach a good lesson? And I'm thinking, I mean, this has got to be quick because you want to have every child there engaging with you and interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. It's a really good question, George. And I think I'll preface my remarks by saying, as I was developing Coaching Her, I was blending my experience as a coach myself. My sport was tennis. As a coach, someone who does coach education and coach development. So it's a blend of sports psychology, coaching science, child development, and um, with a gender layer on top. So when I talk about best practices, I'm bringing in multiple bodies of knowledge in terms of what is evidence-based. So I think in your question with the split in a mixed gender class, where you have a majority of boys, is that first of all, that coaching is coaching. Good coaching is good coaching. And someone's gender is one variable of how you are a good coach. So I first approach it by saying we have to create a climate where everyone's learning and growing and developing, everybody feels cared about, and that nobody is having hierarchy or privilege over another. So when the boys are being dominant, or not creating a welcoming climate, I try to like, hey, this group of 8, you're my team, and everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to support each other. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. We're going to encourage each other. We're going to push each other to do our best, and we're all going to learn and grow. So I kind of just level set it right from the beginning. And then if the boys are doing things that make the girls feel less welcome or make other boys who might not be as boisterous feel unwelcome, then I just call that out and just say, hey, that let's make sure that we're supporting and learning from each other. And if somebody's better than you, well, then you learn and grow from that. It doesn't matter who it is. And I think this is an opportunity to teach young boys how to embrace and support quieter boys and girls, because my knowledge of snowboarding, it's a very masculine dominated culture, where the boys on the slope, whether it's skiing or snowboarding, dominate. And I do have learned from a lot of women and girls that they don't feel like they belong. So I think as instructors, we set that stage right from the beginning.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, my next question, let's think of I don't know, 35 to 45-year-old married couple. They were there for a private lesson.
Yep.
And I've been teaching 38 years now, and I have seen this every year. It happens so often where you're engaging with your guests and you're asking the wife a question, And the husband immediately butts in and says, "Oh no, she needs to be working on this, 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 and this."
Mm-hmm.
And she tries to talk and is just domineered by the male telling me what she needs, or the instructor what this person needs to learn. And
Right.
I want to know what that is from her,
Yeah.
because what he thinks may not be anywhere near what she is looking for. And his opinion doesn't matter to me about
Right.
her and her needs. I want to know what he needs for himself, and I want to know what she needs for herself. How do we deal with that? Because that might be a private that is going for 2 hours, might be an all
Mm-hmm.
day, or I might be with that family for a week. So how do I not be a jerk to the husband, but at the same time, make it very clear to him that I need to hear from the wife?
Right. Well, I think the way you just talked through it, George, is this is my approach, is that I just handle it with being direct and or with humor. And as a tennis teaching pro, when I was giving lessons to a husband-wife combo, this would happen as well. And so I do have some experience with it. So I would just, let him say what he's going to say and then say, "That's really great, Greg. I love that you're so invested in your wife's learning. And Lori, now I want to hear from you. So you may agree or disagree with what your husband just said, but this is your lesson. And I want to hear from you how can I customize this lesson to help you be your best?" And so you're just like, I'm listening to the husband, but I'm also empowering the wife to speak for herself. And then, sort of depending on how it goes, every situation's a little bit different depending on the couple. But I would make it clear, like, that you value her voice and her perspective equally, if not more than his. And just be like, you know what? Thank you for your input, Greg. And I'm also going to ask you, Greg, what you need for yourself. And we're going to ask Lori what she thinks you need to work on. So, I mean, you can, depending on your style and how well you know the people, you can be direct or you can use humor. But I think the biggest thing is to help empower the woman to speak on behalf of herself.
Why does that happen? Because I mean, I'm in a medical clinic, and that happens with patients,
Yeah.
where the patient will come in to talk to us, and the husband is there telling us what's wrong with the patient. And it's, why does that tendency exist?
It's a classic symptom of gender bias, is that some men feel that they know more than the women, that they will speak up and over the woman, and that the women also learn in this context to self-silence. So instead of speaking up or talking over their husband or the male figure, they just let him go and they stay silent, because pushing back or speaking up for themselves is either behavior they've learned or socialized, or they're just like, it's not worth it to make an argument out of it. So it's a
And
both
that's where,
and.
got it. And that's where I also worry if, or the concern can be there if asking the wife more directly, is she scared to answer me? Is there any fear there? Or is that a conflict I might be creating down the road? And I mean, all that
Right.
stuff is churning
Yeah.
through my head, and I'm
Yeah.
loving having this discussion with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing, George, that, depending on if you get a vibe that, if I ask the wife what she thinks and she's very reticent, or she's like, I don't know, or she defers to her husband, you take that as a signal, like maybe she doesn't feel safe. And that when you have the opportunity on the slope, when you're one-on-one, just to follow up to say, hey, Greg told me all about what he thinks you should work on. Now that I have you alone, like, what do you think? And so you're sort of in cahoots, where you're not making Greg feel dismissed, but you're also empowering her to speak for herself when you're just one-on-one with her.
So, what access will PSIA-AASI members have to CoachingHER? How can we learn from you?
Absolutely. We are very excited to have PSIA-AASI on board as a CoachingHER champion. And what that means is your members will have free access to CoachingHER, our digital platform, coachingher.com, with all the learnings, the resources, and the community that we're building around CoachingHER. The coaches can go through the modules at a self-paced, self-guided curriculum. And then we are supplementing that with podcasts, additional content, and we're about to roll out a new website that will have a lot more resources around CoachingHER.
And again, the website CoachingHER, CoachingHER.com.
.com. Yep. And this is it's an evolving platform. But the one thing that I will say that makes us stand out from other coaching education tools is that we developed this over 5 years and we tested it rigorously to make sure that it works and that coaches feel more confident, they have less gender bias, and they empower the female athletes that they coach, which results in the female athletes having higher self-esteem and higher body confidence in the end.
Dr. LaVoi, thank you so much. Anything you want to add?
No, I would invite all of your people in PSIA-AASI to go out, take CoachingHER. We'd love your feedback. And if you have anything you want to talk to us, reach out to us about, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Nicole LaVoi joining us on First Chair from the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Hood River, Oregon. I'm George Thomas.